There is certainly a buzz right now when it comes to converting hotels to apartments, and there's a few groups that are actually doing it and doing it pretty well. I happen to have been one of those groups. I've had my ups and my downs, and I'll certainly cover those in this video. I really want to make sure you are well informed before you go converting hotels to apartments. On surface level, it looks like it's very profitable, right? You got these large scale hotels or even roadside apartment, or excuse me, roadside motels that need to be converted to something or demolished, honestly. And I've done both, and I can tell you what works and what doesn't work, and what you need to know before you even jump into this, because it could be a huge headache. It could be a loss of a ton of money, and it could cause major problems relationship wise. So I don't want you to go there. I want you to be successful. And that's why I am making these videos. If you ever want more help or you need more consulting relationships, please reach out via ultraextendedstay.com. I know that sounds like we just make extended stays, but if you need more help, I have a team of very seasoned hotel conversion specialists, contractors, engineers, designers, those who have had tremendous experiences or experience with cities, municipalities, so on and so forth, me included. So, if you ever need additional help, you own a hotel or you want to jump into the hotel conversion space, please reach out. But first, you need to know how apartments operate. So, guys, apartments are I mean, everyone. I believe everyone in this world. I would say most people, maybe not, have lived in an apartment complex. An apartment complex is a very large building or multiple buildings with units that are very close to each other, and they have amenities. It sounds like a hotel. It sounds like it could be a hospitality asset, but it's not. Uh, we're talking about different zoning, different footprint, different regulations, different codes. There are a lot of differences. If you don't know anything about construction or buildings, you take a look at this and you notice, not that many differences when it comes to hotels and apartments. Well, there are. Uh, Apartments operate very differently. They're long-term assets. If you're gonna stay for 6 months or a year, you're going to be in an apartment complex. You will not be in a hotel. There are hotel extended stays, which I think is an incredible asset class right now. But there's a ton of apartment complexes that, uh, all they are simply hotel rooms, maybe with an adjoining bedroom and a bunch of amenities, including a gym. Some have dog parks, recreational areas, green space, as you can tell in this image. Really, it could be just a hotel. And we'll talk about why I think hotels could easily be apartment complexes in a bit. But as you notice in this one, in this image, this is a larger interior. This interior does not appear to be a hotel, but hotel rooms can be converted into apartments and apartment interiors just like this. This looks very nice. Large island, multiple places to sit, large kitchen, and you don't have a ton of space other than that. Maybe a bedroom, maybe an area to sit. But many people are living in these units. Many people across the world are not having as many kids, or they're traveling, or they're nomadic entrepreneurs, especially in the States. They just need a place, something like this. Maybe it doesn't need to be this opulent, and they'll be there for 6 months, a year, 2 years. I mean, there's tremendous opportunity in converting hotels to apartments, but you must know how hotels operate first. They have a leasing office, they have staff, maintenance staff. They have a really nice system, typically a system that handles their management, including a management team or a completely different management company. The system that I'm talking about would be similar to the hotel industry's PMS. So think, Opera for hotels. There's something called Yardi for multifamily. or Propertyware or Appfolio. These are systems that help organize tenants, even investor capital. There's a asset management side. There's also a property management side. So you must know how to confirm the market demand. If you don't know how to learn, or if you have never learned how to confirm market demand, this is going to be a tremendously difficult lesson you'll learn later on. You never want to buy a building, go through the whole process. Maybe you do everything right. Let's assume you do everything right, but then you realize that there's a ton of units on the market right now ready to lease, and those units are way better, way larger, way nicer than the ones that you converted. So you got to be very careful when it comes to approaching a motel or hotel to convert to apartments. You have to verify the market demand. Now, this is Zillow. You may use CoStar if you're a broker or an investor or private equity group. Others may use Realtor.com. Others may use the MLS. Really, a lot of these are very similar. I know some software, especially paid software, can give you data that is not available on free platforms like Zillow or Realtor.com or Redfin, but you can still judge market demand very well. In this image, you notice that I've searched for a rental apartment, specifically an apartment, and just a studio, not even a one bedroom, a studio apartment. And there is no minimum threshold for price. That was really any price, any location within that geographic space. There's nothing south of me. This is Chandler, Arizona, where I'm at. And you notice that there's areas where there's 6 units over here, there's 8 units over there. And the typical cost of a studio apartment, and if it's relatively nice in my neck of the woods, is around $1,400, which I believe is a steal. You actually won't find that. And that might be more of a sponsored promotional offer. In my market, I've seen studio apartments anywhere from $1,750 to $2,500. It could be even more depending on the class, A class versus B class. But Chandler, Gilbert, these are a little bit pricier markets. You have to know how to understand demand. If there is demand, tremendous demand, and especially demand for more affordable housing, then converting hotels and motels to apartments could be a great investment. You must you have to know, you need to ensure you have a firm exit plan. Having a firm exit plan or having an exit plan before going into any project, especially at this level, is paramount. In fact, the only way it would never come up in any conversation is if you had all the capital yourself to buy a hotel or a motel and you were going to convert that motel or hotel into apartments. You never had to talk to investors, you never had to talk to bankers, because if you did use leverage with a debt, with a loan, or if you did use leverage with equity partners, one of the first questions you'll be asked is, what is your exit plan? Do you have an exit plan? These investors and banks definitely want their money back, and they want their money back with friends. They want to multiply their money. So how are you going to exit? How are you going to sell? Are you going to refinance? Are you going to just hold this thing and replace the capital with your own cash later on? There's a lot of people out there with enough capital that they can use leverage in the beginning and then refinance it themselves by paying it off entirely. I don't think that's a very wise move, but there are folks out there that want to do that. A lot of private equity firms typically build a portfolio of said assets and then roll it up into a REIT or some other larger entity. So, what is your exit plan? Who are your buyers? Let's talk about that. Your buyers for a converted motel or hotel into an apartment. What buyers out there want to purchase a multifamily asset that are all studios, 100% studios? Well, there are buyers out there that will buy those types of assets, but I guarantee you that buyer pool is a lot smaller than your typical multifamily purchaser. There's a lot of multifamily acquisition groups out there who simply want a very reasonable and conservative yield that probably beats the S&P 500 every single year. A little over 8% a year, they're happy. It's fine. So if that's the case, who are those buyers? Well, those buyers want a unit mix. They want 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, 3-bedroom mixes, right? They want some variety typically. So your buyer may be a little bit different when it comes to a hotel conversion. Just keep that in mind. Who are your renters? Now, historically, a renter of a motel or a hotel, and yes, there are renters of hotels or motels, a lot of times they're going to be individuals who, whether if this is a B class or C class product, they're going to be individuals who did not qualify for an apartment complex. Maybe their credit is super low, and because typically credit's not the only distinguishing factor uh, of your ability to apply and be approved into an apartment complex. But typically they have evictions on their history, or they have, the tenant profile might have criminal activity on their history. There could be some egregious crimes that they've committed in the past. And therefore, most apartment complexes or even single family homes with landlords and or property management companies have denied access to a lease. So who's renting a motel hotel? Well, typically it's going to be people who are they're at their last resort. Now, a very nice hotel extended stay, you might get people who try, but of course they're going to be more desirable. You're going to have more business corporate travelers who want to stay long term inside a place for 2, 3, 4 months, and you could call it a Marriott Residence Inn, or it could be the new Wyndham product, Echo by Wyndham. These are nicer, longer term, corporate style extended stays. But an apartment complex that are all studios, and this is zoned, these are zoned apartments. We're just making an assumption here. You're probably not going to get the best clientele if you didn't do the best job on your renovations, or if it's in the not the best area. So location still matters, just like any asset class in real estate. The quality of finish and the quality of construction still matters, just like anything in real estate. And these are going to help you decide what your exit strategy is going to be. Now, I'm not knocking on the strategy of building subsidized housing. It's not my cup of tea. It's not what I do. But there are people out there who create Section 8 housing for uh, their for the local community, and then they sell said asset. Definitely a risky asset class, in my opinion, especially based on the current administration. I just not a fan, but that is a strategy. So you need to think about who your renter demographic, what they look like. You need to think about who your buyers are. That's really going to help you understand what your exit strategy might be. What are your investor types and appetites? Investor types and appetites, kind of a fun phrase to say. Investor types, you have your LPs, your limited partner investors, your retail style investors, those who just want to push their 401k capital or roll over their self-directed IRA into your fund or into your syndication or into your project, which you need to have the proper SEC. You have the proper SEC setup with an SEC attorney if you're going to sell securities to fund your project. But not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, but you do need to have that properly set up. If not, add them to an LLC, partner with them. But who is your investor type? Are you going for a smaller building? Are you going for a larger building? Is this going to require tens of millions of dollars? Is this going to just require maybe 2 to 3 million? Find out who that is and what that is. And then what's their appetite? Some investors say, hey, I just need to push my capital into a place that I can park my money and let it appreciate. I just need something that has some decent meat on the bones, and there's some equity in the deal, and I just need to know you're a good operator. I don't need the money right now. Those are great investors, right? That's a great appetite to find. Other investors are probably in similar situation, but they really don't care. They want to move their money into the next deal after 3 to 5 years. So they're looking for their cash back within 3 to 5 years, maybe double their money. We call that a 2x equity multiple or triple the money if you're really good and you get a really good deal and you execute properly. Um, there's other terms that we use that a lot of private institutions will use. Um, M&A companies and industry might use. We call it IRR or internal rate of return, something that you can't really calculate with your fingers or toes. You have to use a spreadsheet. And basically, it just calculates the speed at which your investor's capital returns back to them with friends or with obviously the upside. So, how fast can you get the money back to the investor, um, and how much will they be earning because of their investment? That's a calculation known as IRR. And then banks. I hate to break it to you, but banks are going to be one of the hardest pieces to the puzzle and has been one of my biggest and largest frustrations in this business strategy. Banks have actually uh, have caused a lot of pain in my investment history, which I look back and I optimistically say, that's all right, because maybe it was better off that I didn't buy it anyway. But banks are just wildly difficult to work with. Even savvy banks that have done adaptive reuse projects before, just incredibly difficult. Their underwriting structure can be wildly rigid, and on top of that, they might ask you 20 times the same question. We're going through a sale right now with the property in Texas, and we converted it. We actually rezoned it. And I think we've been in escrow with this property for over 3 months. Not in escrow, but we're trying to close this for over 3 months, meaning we got the approval a while ago, long time ago, but it's been thing after thing after thing after thing, reappraisal, questioning bank accounts. It's just been a never-ending supply of questions, doubts, concerns, and a lot of times declines or declinations. Banks decline deals like this, even if you're skilled, even if you're savvy, even if you're good at what you do. Many times, it's because banks weren't built to be risk takers. They're not about that. They are going to create and originate a note and most likely sell that note or assign that note for consideration or shares and equity to another institution. So, anyways, banks are tough, very tough. It's very easy to do this if you have a ton of capital or you have investors who have seen you work, have worked with you prior, and you are working alongside someone else, which we'll talk about here in a bit. You need to check in with the city and municipality to confirm ability and city sentiment. I cannot express how important this is. Before you attempt to entertain the thought of converting a hotel into an apartment complex, you need to first check in with the city. And checking in with the city is not as difficult as you think it might be. There's a division in the city called the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, which should exist in most municipalities and cities across the US, uh, are very privy to their codes and regulations in regards to what can be a viable asset for adaptive reuse. If you're going to convert something into a different asset class, they can walk you through how that might work, what that might look like, what would have to happen. Some of the things that you'll run into potentially are, parking spaces. Do you have enough parking spaces? There's a minimum parking spaces to unit ratio. A lot of times it might be 1.5 or 2 parking spaces to 1 unit. Many hotels and motels don't have that. So you're going to have to request what's known as a variance. Basically we're going to help you out here. We're going to let that one go. They weigh they will weigh the good of your project higher than the code required to get there, and that's why they offer that variance. Planning and zoning commissions, if they're incredibly difficult and you want to work with a zoning attorney, a zoning attorney is a great idea, but even then, you're going to be out $30,000 to $100,000 depending on how large your project is and how long it takes. Sometimes it's better just to walk away. That's one of the most difficult things to hear, but sometimes it's better to walk away from a project. I've seen it in others. I've done it myself where it made no sense to pursue it. There's a I won't disclose the city because I know that many of these individuals do follow me online. But there was a city that we were pursuing a deal inside, or there was a city we were pursuing a deal. There was a city in which we were pursuing a deal, and we were going through the process of starting conversations, pre-development meeting, discussing um, design submissions, and I think everything the city was demanding was not only unreasonable, but um, it was repelling, meaning they wanted us gone. They didn't want us there. Come to find out later on, they did want us there. They were just being wildly picky, meticulous, and they ended up keeping a very derelict, gross, you know, motel with, meth heads still trading drugs and all sorts of things. So it's kind of sad. Cities can really shoot themselves in the foot um, if they don't work with investors and developers. But yeah, your city planning and zoning commission is going to be wildly helpful in helping you understand what it's going to take for your conversion to be executed. Confirming that ability and confirming the city's sentiment around it is very important before you proceed in your purchase of that hotel or motel. You need to know the cost of conversion. Conversions are very expensive, especially if you don't know what you're doing. If you do know what you're doing, they're still very expensive, depending on the market, depending on the crew you select, which we'll talk about here in a bit, depending on materials that are being used, depending on the class of building. If it's an A class conversion, it's a B class conversion. And there's also there's something that a lot of people forget when they think about the cost of conversion. It's, is there even infrastructure here? Meaning your MEP, your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, I call them the guts. Are the guts of the building substantial? Most likely they're not for a conversion. And since 9 times out of 10 they're not, there's going to have to be some changes made in your MEPs. Your electrical is going to need more power. Maybe you have to order a gear switch, which is wildly expensive and it takes anywhere from 7 to 12 months to arrive. So imagine that type of delay in your business. What is that type of delay going to cost you? Well, if you're leveraging capital, hard money, or even just levered debt, that's going to cost you more months of waiting. And by the way, a gear switch is a dependency for many other uh, activities on your punch list that need to be carried out. You can't fuss with any other piece of electrical on the finishing side until your gear switch is installed. So there's problems to that. You got to wait this exorbitant amount of time, almost a year, for something to arrive that allows you to have more power in your building. Could be very problematic. Um, Costs of goods and what your market requires could really cripple the project or diminish those returns and profits. Imagine you're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and you have this opportunity to convert a hotel in Scottsdale into an apartment complex. Well, imagine that all the comps in the area have really nice finishes. They're beautiful, and you're going to most likely be required, just because the market is demanding that type of finish, to have very similar or within the realm of finishings. Why? Because if you're going to exit the property someday, you're going to sell it someday, you probably want to sell it to a buyer a buyer is going to want to purchase something that appears, looks, and feels like the class of the area that they're buying it in. Also, tenants. So your typical renter or your tenant is going to look around to see what's available, and they might see your property, and it might be a little more affordable than some other assets out there. Maybe you're not into the subsidized housing developments, but maybe yours is a B plus A class conversion. Well, They could go to your place and pay $2,400 a month, or they can go next door, which is a proper, ground up developed multifamily asset with a lot more amenities and maybe even if it's ran worse than the one you're going to eventually manage, they're going to choose that one because there's more space, more amenities. It feels more normal. Whenever you build a product that doesn't feel totally normal, it could be very dangerous. But that's why you want to pick locations that desperately need housing, that need a place, whether it's an extended stay that you're building or it's an apartment style extended stay or apartment, that there's genuine need. So you need to understand the cost. Lots of costs involved, contractor costs, FF&E, which is uh, furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. Your submission costs for your rezoning, minimal costs are not that much. There are costs associated with required upgrades. If the city notices that you're picking up a property older than 1978, perhaps 1977, they're going to require an asbestos test. If there's asbestos, that's going to be a tremendous cost. Okay. Um, there are tons of hidden costs. There are tons of obvious costs. And there's tons of unplanned costs that'll come later on. Soft and hard costs, legal costs that you weren't anticipating. Your pro forma might have baked in 10 to 15% contingency, um, some wildly conservative additional costs just in case, which we've built many times. That being said, just because you think your pro forma has all the costs you believe that are associated with this project, even wildly conservative figures, there will be other costs you did not even think or imagine. There just will be. Cost overruns are very normal in this type of niche, and that's why it requires a very skilled and experienced operator. You need to know who can help you with the construction, who's actually done it many times before. Um, wow, I can't tell you how important it is to find the right contractor. We've been burned a couple times with the wrong contractor, the wrong people, even people that say, we know what we're doing. We know how to do this. I won't drop names. If you follow me long enough and we've talked, then you know who I'm talking about. But there are contractors out there waiting for opportunities to take your cash, even commercial contractors. They'll take your cash and they're going to give you a beautiful presentation of their project, start to finish, punch lists, timelines, Gantt charts, start to finish, design build plans. Then what will occur is, oh, well, we didn't figure we'd need to do this. Oh, well, we didn't discuss this. Oh, and then you're in a world of hurt because you put all your trust in this company that said that they had experience, that said that they were capable. This is where a lot of people struggle. This is where we've struggled before in the past. Okay. And never will I make the same mistakes again because I'm smarter than that now. And I'm learning. Your contractor can bust this project, like absolutely tank your project. The only thing that will save you is buying it very, very right, which is something that I've done every single time. I buy things very right, with great terms or a super low cash price. That's it. That's the only, if you have a terrible contractor, that's the only thing that might save you. Even then, you could be totally tanked. Um, I sound very pessimistic about this, but you just need to be wildly careful, extremely careful. And when you're talking to general contractors and you're interviewing them for a potential hotel or motel conversion, ask them point blank if they've done an adaptive reuse project like this, if they have all the data behind it, if they can show you the property address, the images, previous files of the plan that they gave their client, the whole 9 yards. If they can't produce it, I would move on. I would move on to the next guy. Every contractor will tell you, and these are sharp general contractors, guys. I'm not talking about your Melvin, pretend guy who shows up and says, "Hey, I'm a contractor," when he's not. I'm talking about your sharp, ROC licensed, everything, all 9 yards, um, insured, bonded, everything else. Those guys, they'll still take you for a ride. They will. And they may even do their best. They may even have the best intentions for you, but that does not mean you're going to win. It doesn't. It means you could be in a world of hurt if they've never done it before. I would move on. Find the next guy. Seriously, find the next guy. There's people out there. I've got great contacts who've done this before. If you need help, reach out. I can help you. You need to hire. You must hire a construction attorney. What's a construction attorney? Well, an attorney is an attorney, real estate attorney. A construction attorney is going to help you position help you position yourself in a place with better leverage than your construction partner. These are very important hires. Your construction attorney could save your tail. Your construction attorney is going to ensure that there are penalties and repercussions and accountability if the contractor has not met milestones, or if the contractor has failed to meet quality QC, or if the contractor gets in trouble with OSHA. Like there are repercussions. There are very well built, project specific, municipality and geographic specific provisions built by an attorney, specifically a construction attorney, that can save your tail. I cannot recommend it enough. You must have a construction attorney. Made that mistake, I will never make that mistake again. With these large scale projects, you must have one. But they're so expensive. Doesn't matter. It's way more expensive to not have one. If it's too expensive and the project won't work without it, then you're doing the wrong deal. Move on. Find a new deal. Find a better deal. Renegotiate the existing deal. Do whatever you have to do to get the right construction attorney representing you, not representing the construction company, representing you, before you jump into the deal, before you even hire a contractor. You need to establish, define, and enforce contractor penalties. Talked about this briefly just a second ago. Your contractor penalties will hold your contractor accountable for ensuring that they meet the milestone quality and the milestone timeline. The timeline is very important because you're paying hard money, or you're paying pref, a preferred return to your investors every year. It doesn't matter really how you financed the deal. It doesn't matter. Even if you financed it yourself and you wired your own cash to do this whole project, well, that cash is not bringing you any friends. Okay, there's no return on that cash until it's completed, correct? So you are losing. You might as well just throw your cash into the S&P 500. You'd be much better off. You're losing the longer you keep your cash out there because your contractor decided to delay, or work on a separate project, or focus on something different, or decide that it wasn't important to finish X milestone or Y milestone on time, or decided to cut corners, not 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 bolt down the flashing appropriately on your drip edge, or keep the same windows even though the budget called for new windows. I mean, there's so many ways that contractors can cheat you. Having the right attorney, and I'm not even talking about an SEC attorney, that's a separate attorney you need, but having the right construction attorney, having the right contractor who's skilled, who's done this many times before, and having the right penalties in place are going to benefit you tremendously and save your tail. Now, on the flip side, I love contractor bonuses. Okay. Let's not just talk about the penalties that the contractor will have to pay if they don't hit your expectations or meet the contract signed goals, benchmarks, and milestones. Let's talk about the bonuses. If you finish this project without any compromise of quality, without cutting corners, and you do this ethically, legally, ahead of schedule, you finish this project 30 days or more ahead of schedule, we'll give you a 5% bonus on the total cost of the DB, the design build. Like, that's huge. 10% maybe. I've seen them all. I've seen great operators offer this, and it works very well. I've seen great operators offer this, and they're great operators. And it's not that it didn't work well. It's the fact that they chose the wrong contractor. So even if you choose the right, or excuse me, choose the wrong contractor and you enforce penalties and bonuses, wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. None of that matters because you chose the wrong contractor. So I know most of this discussion revolves around your contractor, revolves around your contractor's ability to execute, but wildly important. Contract penalties, they help define the penalties, or contract penalties, they define what those penalties are. It puts out the purpose. What are these penalties for? Just because you're an angry person? No, it's to protect both sides. How the penalties are calculated. There are penalties that are calculated in a very unique way. Maybe if a project milestone is supposed to be finished on X date, and that date comes around and the project was not completed, there's going to be a penalty of $100 every day until it is completed. That's a calculation. It'll be $100 per day. That's the definition of that penalty. There are some unique penalty calculations that some operators will put inside of their contracts for their contractor. I won't jump into it now, but there are ways. There are ways to work with the contract attorney, construction attorney, to build those. Enforcing the contract penalty. How there's a description of how you enforce those penalties. What's the next step when it's time to execute a penalty or enforce a penalty? Excuse me. Who does it? When do you do it? How is it done? And then navigating those penalties. What? How do you ensure that the penalties um, that were set up are someone's keeping a close eye on those penalties, right? Because you could say milestone X is not completed on time, and this is why you need to have an in-house CPM, construction project manager. Um, Maybe he wasn't keeping his eye on that, and they totally forgot about that penalty. And if you forget about penalties, then your contractor is going to probably pull a little bit more rope from you, more and more and more. So I'm not saying contractors are crooked. There are many who are, but contractors are essentially business owners looking to get as much volume as they can. They need to get as many jobs as they possibly can that are high paying jobs, and they're always hiring, they're always firing. It's a tough gig. So hats off to contractors, but still, you have to have accountability. You need to raise enough capital. This is something that I've struggled with in the past. I've even worked with previous partners who their only job was to bring capital, and it didn't happen. So, I mean, this can be hard. Raising capital is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that you decide to do now. Raising capital is a process. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's why some firms will take 9 months, 12 months to close on one deal. If you can lock up a deal under contract without any risk on your end, without losing any money, losing any earnest money deposit, or losing any consideration, just to lock up a deal, and you can hold that lockup period for 12 months, then you have a really good shot of raising enough capital. If not, then you're competing with others who either have the capital or who can raise it faster than you can. It's a tough gig. It's very hard to do. But um, raising enough capital is the is a subject that occurs often during what we call capital calls. Hey, we didn't raise enough capital. We and I've done this before. I learned right in the past on a past project. We made an assumption, even though it was very calculated, very educated, that we would only need X amount of capital to raise for this project to go full cycle. And come to find out that expenses were higher than what we had previously imagined. Capital expenditures were much more than we had previously imagined. So we had to make a capital call. We had to call our investors and say, "Hey, we have an email coming your way. We're with a presentation. We need to explain start to finish where the capital went, which we reported on every single week." And come to find out, we are in need of some more capital to finish this project. Now, typically your investors are pretty amicable. They're going to work with you and they want to be successful. Plus, they have cash in the deal. If you're doing one capital call or you're calling to request more capital to finish the project and it's reasonable, then yeah, it's going to happen. If it happens over and over and over again, that could be dangerous and it could actually hurt your reputation as an operator in the adaptive reuse or development space. So you need to be very careful to raise enough capital in the beginning and allocate the capital appropriately. You need to partner with someone who's done it before. If you don't partner with someone who's been there, done that, you're guessing the whole way through. One of the smartest ways to begin any business is to find the best at whatever business you want to begin and see if they'll give you the time and day. See if they'll allow you to work side by side. See if they will take a part of your deal, perhaps, or see if you can compensate them for their time and energy. I've done multiple deals now, some very successful, others, and one not successful at all. So I've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. I've seen it all. There are others out there who've done many more deals than I have, but I work alongside those individuals. Working with me on my team, you're going to get over 40 plus hotel conversions experience with people that back that with actual proof of properties. We've done it. We've done it many times. We've seen what works. We've seen what doesn't work, and we've been there, done that. Work with someone who has done it before. If I was going to start a bakery, I'm not going to go YouTube how to be a baker. I'm going to probably hire a baker, an actual baker, someone who is great at baking cakes, pies, bread, and I'm going to pay them very nice, or I'm going to give them a salary plus some equity in the bakery, and I'm going to fund the bakery. That's the smart approach. There's no reason to try to figure this out on your own. Many do. I don't know how they go through that thought process, and a lot of them fail. But when you want to be successful, you find those who are successful in whatever it is you want to complete. So I am available for such deals. I want to do more deals. I have investors. I have knowledge. I have that experience of what works, what doesn't work, failing miserably, and then winning very well, doing very well in this business. Uh, Most of the deals that people bring to me, they're not deals. I actually tell them, no, this doesn't work. It is a frustrating thing to hear. Um, I've said this to actually someone before, and they went out and they attempted it, and it didn't work. And I knew exactly what would happen, start to finish, when they went out to do it. And there are so many variables involved in motel hotel conversion to apartments that need to be carefully considered. That when someone who's skilled, someone who's seasoned says, yeah, not a deal, and here's why, you probably need to take that to heart. And then share the knowledge, share it with someone else. Hey, this is what someone else is saying. What do you think? Just because one operator who's very skilled tells you that it's not a deal doesn't mean you can't bring it by another operator who is skilled. So email me if you have a deal. Email me, andrew@andrewlebaron.com. Send it over to me. If you're seeing this on YouTube, post a comment below. If you're seeing this on social media, let's chat. Send me a DM. I want to know about your deals. I'd love to chat with you about your deals. Let's take a look at it together. We can underwrite it together. I have a pro forma that works very well. And maybe you do have a deal. Maybe we work together. Maybe I come in and I help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. There's many ways to do this, and we'll cover this in other videos. You don't need to convert all your units. You don't need to convert your motel or hotel into strict apartments. They don't need to be actually zoned apartments. They can be an apartment style extended stay. There's both multiple ways to exit these projects. And it all starts with evaluating them in the very beginning and being okay with the facts. If it's not a deal, it's not a deal. I'm Andrew LeBaron. I welcome you to reach out to me anytime. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you on the next one.